Faith of our fathers living still, in spite of dungeon, fire, and sword. Oh, how our hearts beat high with joy whene'er we hear the glorious word. Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. Faith of our fathers, we will love, both friend and foe, in all our strife, and preach thee too as love knows how, by saving word and faithful life. Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. Slava Isusa Christu, Slava Navika, glory be to Jesus Christ, glory be forever. This is Father Basil Malovany again, doing another podcast on this winter day. And today, just wanted to talk a little bit about this, like the song I was singing now, the faith of our fathers, or the faith of our martyrs. You know, I've said this many times in my parishes that I serve. Our churches, our Catholic churches were built on martyrs, on the blood of martyrs. And we in Canada often forget about that. We really forget about all those saints in the past who were martyred, who died for the sake of the church. And even today in many countries, there are people who are imprisoned, who are tortured, who are, even killed for the faith of Jesus Christ. And I've been doing this project since the beginning of this new calendar year of 2022. We're on our church website. I put the saint of the day, because as we know on our church calendar, every day there's many, many saints. And I pick one of the saints of that day and do a little blurb about his life, or her life, his or her life. And, I'm learning, because, you can't know possibly every single saint that existed on this earth from the beginning of our church's time, and even the Old Testament saints. So it's really hard to remember all their life stories. So as I'm putting their life stories on our church website, I'm learning a lot about the saints as well. And it's just amazing the faith that these saints, these men and women had of in their lifetime. How it didn't matter what was happening around them. They could have been persecuted, they could have been imprisoned, they could have been tortured, they could have been killed, but their faith remained strong right to the very end of their life. And how many of us can say that same thing when things are not perfect in our lives, when things are not perfect in the world around us, do we keep that faith? Do we keep the same faith that those martyrs had? It's difficult. Oh boy, is it ever difficult, in this world today of COVID and all the stuff going on in our country of Canada and in the world with warfare and a lot of violence in the world and protests and who knows what else is happening. And of course, the COVID is not going away yet. And, it's so hard for us to remain strong in the same faith that the martyrs of the past had, or even the martyrs of today have. If push came to shove and we had to choose between being faithful in God and choosing death, choosing, to be martyred, or else, living a life of luxury, living a life of having all these material goods with us, which would we choose? Well, of course, most people are going to choose, having the good life, having all the worldly goods. Very few people in the world are going to choose to be martyrs. It's not an easy choice to make. And these are the decisions that the early martyrs had to make in the church. And if you read on our Sacred Heart Ituna Facebook site, some of the stories of these martyrs who had to choose between worshiping idols and living sinful lives, or else choosing a simplicity, choosing to live a life of holiness. Many of these saints lived in isolation because they wanted to get away from the sinful world. They wanted to get away from the things that caused them to be separate from God. And again, it would be so difficult for us today to make those same decisions because we are attached to worldly goods. We are attached to the things of this world. So we have a hard time to isolate from the world. We have a hard time to isolate from the goods of the world. And sometimes we have to learn from these saints. Sometimes we have to learn that the things of this world are not going to bring us salvation. No, absolutely not. We can use the things of this world for our good, for the good of helping one another in the world and making sure everyone has the necessities of life. But if we attach ourselves to the things of this world and deem them more important than a relationship with God, then we are not spiritually doing what God has asked us to do. We are not putting God first. So that this is what it really means to be putting God first, to put God ahead of all the material things we have, to put God ahead of every single thing we have, even our family. And this is a tough one too. Many of these saints left their family members, and even if you look at Jesus's ministry with the apostles, those apostles left their families at home to journey with Jesus those 3 years and to spread the good news afterwards, And I'm sure their families were still taken care of. Like, it's not like they didn't, that their families still had the necessary resources to survive in the earth. But, to say when Jesus said, if you love your spouse or your children or your friends more than me, then you're not worthy of following me. This is pretty serious stuff here, you know. Are we worthy of following Christ? Are we ready to even leave our families like those martyrs and saints did in order to do God's will? It's tough. That's a tough one for sure. We don't really we can't comprehend what it means, like those saints and martyrs did, to leave the world behind us, to leave the world and focus 100% totally on God, the Heavenly Father. You know, and if you read some of those life stories of the saints, you'll see that there is conflict in their souls in order to do this. Many of them did not want to leave the things behind in the world. They didn't want to leave their resources, their riches, their families, their wealth. They wanted to keep it, just like we do today. So I think there's a lot we can learn from those saints, from all the history of our church and the history of the world, really, because we have to learn from those people who sacrificed, who had to, you know, give up a lot of the stuff that we think is important in the world. It's not easy at all. It's absolutely not easy. So again, this having that faith of our fathers, faith of the saints that came before us, if we had even an inkling of that same faith they had, you know, can you imagine the amount of things that we can do for our church and for the world today if we don't worry about our resource, our riches. We don't worry about, you know, the material things that we have or don't have. We're just focusing totally on serving God every day of our lives. So anyways, that's basically what I want to say today. God bless you all, and I will talk to you soon.